I would be loud, but they're having their meeting over there, so I want to be respectful. Thank you guys all for coming today. This is the one and only Joe Taylor. Joe flew in from Las Vegas to do this class with us. Joe is at Real Broker. I met him in my mastermind. We're part of the same mastermind, which is all about creating wealth. And it's interesting because we've been in the same social circles, but we really only met like months ago. Joe's team does about 1,000 transactions a year, and they're based out of Vegas. Maybe you can hit on who you are and what you're doing, but sure. One of the reasons I really aligned with Joe is he's all about creating wealth. Like, that is one of the reasons this is not about Real. A lot of you guys are not in here or at Real. But that's why we joined Real. Was because we were like, hell yeah, and since then it's been fun. So I'll let you take it over from here, but thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, well, yeah, like she said, my name is Joe Herrera. It's going to be a challenge.
Oh, I called you Joe Taylor. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I know all the time. So his partner's name is Taylor, and then the Joe Taylor group.
Here's the funniest story. So I got started in 2001, January of 01, I got my license. And I had a door knocking background. After my high school career, I spent 2 years knocking doors. And so when I first got my real estate license, I just went door knocking. And I did my first couple of transactions. And then I started running ads in magazines. There was a magazine in Vegas called Homes and Land Magazine. So I would feature properties and people would call on them, and I would set up an appointment and I would go visit to view their home or show them homes. And people would always say, like, I was expecting a short, chubby little Mexican guy. Why would you expect that? That's kind of racist. So anyways, as we established the Joe Taylor group, we got to where I said, let's go with our first name. So my partner's name is Taylor. To make it even more complicated, we've got now our growth partner, Taylor, and then we've got a third girl that works for us named Taylor. So there's 3 Taylors. And the third Taylor yesterday posted a topless picture of herself on Instagram. And one of my agents came and was like, have you seen this? You know, so we started our leadership meeting yesterday, and I said, I've now officially seen all 3 Taylors at our company topless. So yeah, I'm born and bred Nevada guy. I was actually born in Carson City, raised in Vegas. Went to high school in Vegas, married a girl from Vegas. We know Vegas is really a small town, believe it or not. So I know the guys from the Neon Trees. I really know the guys from the Imagine Dragons. We've sold homes to the guys from the Killers. So it's like Vegas is a really small community. And if you know anybody that grew up in Vegas, especially on the west side, yes, I probably knew them, which is kind of the biggest misnomer about Vegas. It's a really big city. But especially if you've ever driven through Vegas to California, the 15 that you drive on divides the city. So everybody on the west side knows each other, everybody on the east side knows each other, but rarely do we cross over. So a little bit about myself. Yeah, so when my wife and I got married in 2002, I'm going to get into my background, and I'm going to be really brutally honest with you guys. I have no agenda here. I have nothing to sell you. I don't have coaching material. I don't have knives or vitamins. I'm just going to be real with you about my life and my experience. When my wife and I got married, I told her honesty is my thing. We're going to get into why I'm so obsessed with the principle of honesty. And I told her we could fix anything as long as we're willing to be honest with each other. And she came from a family of rug brushers. You know, like something bad happens and they just brush it under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. So you can imagine the first couple of years of my brutal honesty, and her, she was, like a Miss Teen Nevada background. And so for her, it was all about presentation. And for me, it was all about raw, real honesty. So our first couple of years of marriage were pretty rough. And but we got to a point to where now we're both. So the reason I bring that up is I'm just going to be honest with you about how I live my life, how I'm starting to build wealth. I've made a lot of money in my life, but the problem is I haven't turned much of it into wealth. The obsession with wealth creation is something new for me. I'm so confident in my ability, and to be honest, all of your ability, because you're breathing, to make money. Making money is actually pretty dang easy. It's the creation of wealth that's tough. Making money is easy. To be honest, becoming rich is relatively easy in America. I was joking with Spring on the way here. I wanted to get a bottle of water and a pack of gum, and it took me like 20 minutes to find a gas station. So if anybody who just wants to make money, open up a gas station that sells gum and water somewhere around this office, and you'll probably make money. You can even probably become rich. But the question is, can you do it well? So as I share with you my honest journey, take it for what it's worth and just realize that it's true and authentic, my journey, not trying to sell you anything. So a little bit about me. Just to get real with you, just to get authentic with you, I told Taylor on the way up here, he was asking about my family. I want to break down a little bit of the anatomy of my family because it's who I am. It's how I was created. There's some of it I'm very proud of, and there's some of it I'm extremely ashamed of. So beginning with, I was born on July 17th. Coincidentally, so was David Hasselhoff. There's no relation there, but it's kind of cool. More importantly than David Hasselhoff was the fact that Disneyland opened on July 17th, 1955. I was born in 79, but July 17th. So Disney, I've always had this affinity to Disney. I don't think it's a shared birthday. What I think it actually is my grandfather on my mom's side was one of the early cartoonists for Disney. He was actually at the opening day of Disney, July 17th, 1955. That's the cool part. The bad part is he was an abusive alcoholic. So that's not cool. On my dad's side, alcoholism is rampant. On my mom's side, alcoholism is rampant. So I'm not going to get into the conversation and the argument between nature versus nurture, but needless to say, my family has had its share of issues like brothers and sisters. So the way it manifested itself in my mom is my dad worked for the Bell system. So the Bell system established communications across really the Western United States. Pac Bell, Nevada Bell, I don't know what it was called in Utah, but Intermountain Bell or whatever it's called. The phone system established communication across, and then it became internet, and it became, a fax, and then internet, all that stuff. My dad bringing my mom to Nevada was a really bad decision because the way her addictive personality manifested itself was in the form of compulsive gambling. And it was so bad that if my dad made $1, my mom lost it. If my dad made $1, my mom lost it. Her way out, she decided to honest story, she decided to kill my dad. So I was really young. I don't remember much about it, but I remember my dad spent some time in the ICU because my mom was, right? So this is just real. It's ugly and it's not fun, and it's probably, you're like, dude, this is some personal stuff. But I've had to come to grips with this in order to improve myself. You may be saying to yourself, like, yeah, my family's kind of jacked up too. Or you may be saying, my family was awesome. And that in and of itself creates its own problem. So it's like, whether we come from weird backgrounds like mine or maybe awesome backgrounds like yours, whatever our background is, it can create its own unique problem. So how has this issue manifested itself in my siblings? I've got two brothers that are opioid addicts. My little brother, Tommy, yesterday we busted out our wedding video. Somehow we got a hold of the VHS and we put it in and we played it for our kids. We haven't watched it since 2002. I'm coming up on 20 years of marriage. And my little brother was like singing and acting all crazy. My little brother currently has AIDS. He contracted it from the use of heroin. And so I can go on, but I think I'm painting a picture of like, I graduated high school with like a 1.7 GPA. When I was a kid, my mom said she used to take me to the grocery store in Vegas. All the grocery stores have slot machines. She would fill up baskets full of groceries, and then she would sit there and play the slot machine for hours. And then she would tell me, don't worry about doing your homework. Don't bring this up to your dad. Okay? So 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, this is what I was raised with. Needless to say, I didn't establish very good study habits. So point number one in my story is I am a chain breaker. I have been running from my family for 25 years. I've been trying to establish myself and become something different. My family lives paycheck to paycheck. It's just what they do. Sometimes it doesn't make it, so it's paycheck to pawn shop to paycheck. But for me, I've had to blaze my own trail, and I've had to break. For some people, their family history links chains of greatness. That's not the case for me. I've had to break those chains and create something for myself. Got into real estate in 2001, founded the Joe Taylor Group in 2005, opened my first brokerage in 2010. I think it's fun to go back to my licensing days. The guys who ran the real estate school had a $500 bet on whether or not I would pass my real estate exam. because I probably broke the record for like stupidest questions asked in real estate pre-licensing. Like I probably asked the dumbest stuff ever. Sold our first brokerage in 2002. Or it was 12, sorry. In 2012, we started a tech company. So I was on a bike ride one day with a buddy of mine, and I said, go to Hawaii. And I told him as we were riding, I was like, dude, I'm kind of obsessed with the thought that I'm going to Hawaii and there's something awesome happening and I don't even know. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, how come I hear all this crap about people, or it was right after Instagram started. How come I see people on Instagram and they did cool stuff? And I go, it would have been nice to know about that beforehand. Maybe there's an idea of that. So we created an app. We partnered with Shaquille O'Neal. He tried to get us to go to a strip club with him, and we said no. I'm happy to report. And I would have told my wife if I went, because I'm honest with her. We partnered with Adam Carolla. We partnered with Neff and Blake Griffin and all these cool people. We were powering events for BYU, University of Utah, UNLV, San Diego State. So we created an app that lets you see everything happening in the future, not just Ticketmaster events. Like I was like, what if I'm going to the North Shore of Oahu and they're doing like a cool Polynesian version of Les Mis or something in Haleiwa? Like I'd be pissed if I didn't hear about it. So like we were covering everything. So we raised $1 million and lost $1 million. Like it was hard. It took me years to recover from it. I purged my house of every piece of memorabilia, and if you've ever been a part of a massive failure, it hurts really, really bad. So I don't even have a t-shirt, a hat, only now. Well, we're 7 years out, and so Facebook will give me a little kick to the groin every once in a while. And be like, remember 7 years ago when you were hanging out with Shaq in Atlanta? And I'm like, it's still kind of roughly wrong, but I have to be grateful for it because it taught me what now runs my business. So we opened the second brokerage in 2016 after the failure of our tech company, and then we recently transitioned into the real broker ecosystem. At my core, I'm a rainmaker for our team and for our team Ridge, in a sense. We have about 100 agents, about 60 of which I am primarily responsible. It's the most boring job in the world. I am primarily responsible for lead generation. Basically, I was sitting at the airport at 4:30 this morning and I ran an ad on Facebook. Like it's the least sexy job in the entire world. And my peers, people I associate with that also run large companies and teams will say to me, like, why don't you just outsource that? And I think there's two answers. Number one, I think I'm the best in the world at what I do. And number two, I'm kind of Schmiegel level obsessed with doing it myself. So it's like a combination. It's kind of my little precious. So the Joe Taylor Group, we run the largest Facebook page in Las Vegas. We have over 20,000 Facebook followers. To date, I've generated about 125,000 internet leads. For me, I wanted to go up against Zillow and Realtor.com, and I wanted to win. So for my team, I'm able to generate Realtor.com Zillow quality leads for about 1/20th the cost. In Vegas, it costs about $200 to $250 per Zillow or Realtor.com lead. I can do it for about $5 to $10. And so it's really what's fueled our company. We'll do about 1,000 units this year. About 250 of them will be Facebook leads that I generate for my agents. We'll probably do another 50 Instagram. So we'll do about 300 of those. And then repeat referral and sphere of influence business and the rest. So I co-founded the Joe Taylor Group. Currently, our core team is about 10 people in Vegas. And then we have about 90 other agents that I'm actually a licensed broker for. Some of them we give leads to, some of them we manage transactions for, some of them they just hang their license with us and pay us to use our office. So we also, I'm a licensed broker with Real Broker, and Spring and I and a few others are running a mentorship kind of mastermind program to kind of, you probably are, but I know I'm to the point to where I really enjoy sharing the things that make me happy. Like I really enjoy sharing the things that I know. I love being on podcasts. I love mentorship. I love coaching. It's my form of social media. I don't post a lot on social media. Taylor and I were talking about my sister-in-law and the 3-hour-long argument we got in about the need for social relevance, and she got really mad at my wife one time because she didn't like her doctored selfie on Facebook, and so she came over and we got in this big argument. So not much of what I put out there socially, personally, do I seek relevance in. I think I really love one-on-one communication with individuals that I can actually make a difference in their life. So I wasn't always that way. I wasn't always very collaborative. Real estate, as you know, it's an island. It's a lonely place. If somebody's doing something well, you better not ask them about it because you're not going to find out from them about it. You're going to have to hear from someone else about what they're doing. That's just our industry. And so I found a lot of enjoyment in collaboration. So the thing I'm going to talk about today is personal to me, and it's something I've become pretty core committed to, which is for the last 20 years in real estate, I have generated income from 2 streams. I'm now pretty obsessed with all 4, and I think any agent that has hopes of surviving, let alone thriving in the future, needs to make sure there's multiple streams of income. I don't, just to dispel some rumors, I don't buy umbrellas on Alibaba from China and sell them on Etsy. I don't do that. That's not my side hustle. I don't buy baseball cards. I will tell you, I went through my old collection and none of them are worth anything. I was like, maybe I have something in here. None of them are worth anything. So my main hustle, my side hustle, and my side hustles, and my like burner phone side hustle is all real estate related things. And so I'm not very diversified in that. I haven't got into crypto and stuff like that. For me, most of what I do to create wealth is in the real estate space. And there's a very specific reason why. When a man tells you he got rich, the question you should ask them is, a man says I got rich through hard work, the main question you should ask is, whose hard work? Like, who was working hard? My business partner, Taylor, has become obsessed with a book that I would recommend you all read, which is called Who Not How. So whenever you're trying to accomplish something new, the prideful part of you, the American like entrepreneurial side of you will say, how do I accomplish this? Taylor and I have become pretty core committed at who can help us accomplish this. Taylor's been working with us for about a month, and he's heard me say 1,000,000 times, regardless what the question is, my response is usually very universal. Someone will say, hey, Joe, whatever, I need to get paid, or how do I handle this lead, or where do I put this piece of information, or who do I call about this? That's a great question. Let me put you in touch with so-and-so. I had a buddy of mine, hey, I bought my house from you for 1.3 7 months ago. The house down the street just sold for 2.5. How much would I have to pay in taxes on the $600,000 I can make? It's a great question. Let me have my accountant. I don't really answer any questions anymore. I'm so committed to the who that I don't even understand the how. Graham, we had breakfast with Graham, and he's like, hey, for the signing thing on the contracts, and I kind of blank stared at him. I'm like, yeah, I have no freaking idea. Like, I don't know. You know what I can do though is I said, hey, talk to Whitney. She knows what we're using. So for me, I never talk about how, I always talk about who. And so if you really want to begin to create wealth, you have to become somewhat obsessed with recognizing our industry is completely broken. For some reason, we want to make the same amount of money as our friends who are dentists and podiatrists and urologists and all the ists. We want to make the same amount of money, but we've never paid the price to be like them. And so we don't value ourselves. And so if you really get deep, you'll recognize that you run around like a maniac trying to prove, not even to your client, you're trying to prove to yourself that you're worth the money you make. Because if you've been doing this long enough, I'll tell you, 3 months ago, I had a friend call me from my tech company days. I personally lost $50,000 in the creation of that tech company. My CTO, the guy that built the app for us, called me and said, hey, I'm working for Coinbase in San Francisco. They're cool if I work in Vegas. I'd rather not pay 11 or 12% income tax every year. I want to buy a house. And I was like, awesome. how much are you looking to spend? He's like, I don't know, 1.5 to 2, which in Vegas is luxury. Like that's a big ticket. And I was like, all right, well, let me do this. Do you need me to have a lender give me a call? He's like, oh yeah, no, I'm paid cash. I'm like, okay. I'll take you out myself, which is super rare. I never take people out. I promise you this is not an exaggeration, less than 2 hours and 37 minutes on the entire transaction. I showed him 3-4 houses. I picked him up at the RE and took him back. And then I fielded a few 5-minute phone calls. And then the who kicked in, like all my team did the rest. And I made $60,000. You can do the math. It's like $25,000 an hour from this one transaction. So now if I get really deep at my core, I have to ask myself, is my subconscious comfortable with that? Or am I going to run around like a maniac, picking out paint colors, delivering pets, finding furniture for them, painting their house themselves, and moving them in? We had one of our buyers agents one time show up and go, he's really young, he's like 22. He's super insecure because he's making, for him, he's making $150,000, $160,000 a year. His dad makes like 80. So he's just his subconscious is really insecure. He was late to one of our meetings. I'm like, bro, what do you think this is? He was like, oh, sorry, I was up all night last night helping one of my clients move. I was like, why? He's like, I don't know. They just called me and said, hey, we need you at our house to help us move. And he just showed up and did it. And I was like, did they seem grateful? He was like, no, they were pissed when I left at like 1 in the morning. And I was like, are you a maniac? Why are you doing this? He's like, well, I had only spent 3 hours on the deal and I made 10 grand and I felt bad. And I'm like, so obviously I had some mentorship and coaching to do to get him to realize his worth. But my point is, our industry is so broken because we want to make the money doctors and lawyers make. But because we didn't pay the price they paid, we refuse. We core level refuse to build our businesses the way they built their business with people. We try to do it all ourselves. So if you look at the lifespan of a real estate transaction, ad creation, lead generation, technology management, contacting a client, sending them to a lender, showing a property, writing a contract, opening an escrow, sending disclosures, scheduling inspections, scheduling appraisals, negotiating repairs, walkthroughs, picking out paint, we do it all. So I'm going to submit to you my theory that if you are not making as much money as your doctor and lawyer friends, it is because you are not organized the way we are organized and you're not using enough ooze. You can never learn enough house. It's just impossible. We all have strengths and weaknesses. People say, why have Taylor Prince and I, 2 pretty alpha males, been partners for 15, 16 years? It's just because our strengths and weaknesses are in different places. He geeks out on the stuff that I'm like, bro, I don't even freaking care about that. And I geek out on the stuff that he would say, bro, I don't even care about. And so we will say that to each other. I'll go, bro, I don't even care. Whatever you want to do. He's like, fine, I'll take it. And we pass the puck back and forth. And where I geek out, he couldn't care less, or he could care a lot less. And where he geeks out, I can care less. So it all comes down to whose hard work is going to help you build your wealth. So principle number 1 comes down to the generation of real estate transactions. Some of you may be smarter than me and can figure out how to be a real estate agent that creates wealth without the closing of real estate transactions. And if so, congratulations. I'm not that guy. My core wealth building income stream is the closing of real estate transactions. I will get a piece of 3,000 real estate transactions this year. My piece may be $10, but I'm going to get a piece of 3,000 real estate transactions. This morning at breakfast, I told Graham, I will probably generate about $18,000 today on deals that close from people I have no freaking idea who the buyers are or the sellers. To be honest, I probably don't even know the agent themselves that well. And so the traditional real estate requires the closing of transactions. As an agent, deal closing should always be the number 1 focus. If you're not closing enough deals. So I'm going to tell you, the next 3 pillars of income become really hard to do if you're not core committed to your main thing, which is closing transactions. I don't know when the tipping point happens. I imagine after I closed my 100th buyer transaction, I turned to Taylor and I was like, bro, I'm out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to get in my car every day and do this. Now I had to pay a price. I couldn't shortcut the system and just go I'm never going to show a buyer. I did it 100 times, maybe 150, 200 times. But at some point I said, like, I'm done. If this is real estate, I'm out. It probably took 7 or 8 years to get. At some point I said, like, I'm done. But the closing of a real estate transaction was still paramount to our business. So I'm going to submit to you this simple math equation. O times C times P equals S. Opportunity times a combination, an equation of your consistency and persistence will equal success. So if you and I sat down and I said, how is 2021 going for you? And you said, not great. And I said, well, what's not great? And you said 8 transactions. How are you full-time or are you part-time? I work 60 hours a week. Okay, something's missing. I would start with opportunity. I would say, do you have enough opportunity to close transactions? The reality is most real estate agents refuse to partner with somebody like me, and so they'll just never have enough opportunity. Because guess what? Your friends and family are going to be contacted by people that some of my who's, and they're going to sell them a house. Now, none of us in this room are probably old enough to remember when I first got into the game. I don't know when some of you got in. It was calendars and like magnets. That's how people kept their business. I love nothing more than interviewing an agent who used to do 40 deals a year, who's currently doing 5, and says to me, like, you know, they've been in the business for 25, 30 years, and says, I don't know what happened, but none of my friends are buying homes with me. You know what I say? I'll tell you what happened, Bob. I did. I have. He sees my home. Your friends see my homes 20 times a week. They see videos that are constantly coming out for me. They see promotion after promotion after promotion. And guess what? Your calendar, the Golden Knights schedule, is not going to get your business done anymore. So because because Bob won't partner with me, he'll never get enough opportunity to truly have success in 2020. So the number one question you need to ask yourself is, if you're not achieving your goal of closed transactions, do you have sufficient opportunity? Now there's tons of ways to create them. Zillow will create it for you. Realtor.com will create it for you. Someone like me will create it for you. Knocking doors will create it for you. Like, what's better, CrossFit or Pilates? Both. Which one are you going to actually use? And so, like, there's a million ways to create opportunity. There's always a cost. With me, the cost is a split. With Realtor.com, the cost is generally an upfront fee. With OpCity, it's a split. So, like, you can get opportunity if you're willing to pay the price. But the ultimate price you pay with me, with my agents, the price I require of them is a combination of consistency and persistence. If you know an agent that, like, if we pulled out a 3-year span, most agents in Vegas, I don't know about Utah, most agents in Vegas, let's call them successful agents. Let's call them 10 deal a year agents. It looks like this: 2 deals, nothing, 2 deals, nothing, 1 deal, nothing, 3 deals. It's because if I saw that pattern, I would say, okay, you have a persistent person who's unwilling to be consistent. Meaning, when they need money, they work their A off. Like, when their spouse goes, it's super cool that you can win Fortnite with your 12-year-old nephew, but like, I need you to go make money. Then they show up, and Spring's probably seen it before they show up, like, hey, I need to make money. So call. They get on the phone, they're killers. Oh, what, someone will say, oh, I'm just looking. Well, what does just looking mean like to you? Is that 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? And you hear him, you're like, dude, this guy's a wizard. And then he closes a few more deals and he disappears. So he's persistent, but what he lacks is the consistency of doing the same thing day after day after day in order to be successful. Or if you see 1 0 0 1 0 0 1 0 0 1, what you have is a consistent person that refuses to be persistent. I hear him all the time in my office. Hi, Julie. This is Bill. You had inquired on a property at 123 Main Street. I'm just calling to give you some information on that. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, well, listen, if you ever need anybody, here's my phone number. Give me a call. Have a great day. Hello, Sam. Hi, this is Bill. It's over. I'm like, bro, you've been doing this for 3 months and you have nothing. You have nothing. So what it shows me, if you look at the math equation, if consistency is a 10 out of 10 and persistence is a 0, 10 times 0 is still 0. and vice versa. So if somebody's super persistent, but they never do it, they'll have limited success. Same thing with consistency. So how does it manifest itself in my world? Well, I've got a core team. We did about 280 transactions last year with my core 10 agents. And then we've got our Team Rich. We did about 800 sides last year. So Team Rich is people we have some sort of relationship with. We provide some leads. We manage some of their transactions, and or we get just a transaction management fee or something like that. So we did about 1,000. That's what transaction closings look like for me, outside of the outlier of my programmer calling me and buying a $60,000 home. For the most part, what I do is so boring. I literally sit at a desk and write ads. And then Taylor will tell you, I kind of walk around and just bark at people all day. And then I go play golf in the afternoons with my son. So like, that's pretty much my life. All right. So once you've established a history of closing transactions on a regular basis, then you have to create some sort of residual income. So when I ended my door knocking career and entered the workforce, there were two mentors I had. One was an insurance. I knew I was a terrible student. If you guys remember my intro, I graduated high school with a 1.7. I then attended college in Rexburg, Idaho, and all I did was meet girls. Like I spent 4 or 5 months up there. I honestly went on more dates than I attended class. Like I think I flunked every single class. So coming off of my door knocking career, I was like, I have to create income with my mind and my mouth, because I know I don't want to do it with my hands, and I know I don't want to do it in the classroom. So my two options were real estate and insurance. I was really attracted to real estate because of the big paycheck, but I was sneaky, like side chick level interested in insurance because of the residuality and because of the trips. I've got a brother that's an Allstate agent and a brother that's an American National agent. And every year they go to Switzerland and I throw my hands in the sky and I'm like, well, God, no one takes me to Switzerland, right? So we've actually created it ourselves. Like in our Vegas team, for our 10 agents, last year we took like 20 people to Tahiti. It was like, screw Switzerland, we're going to Tahiti, you know? So we created it ourselves. So we have a production goal that if people meet it, we take them on a trip. We're going to Costa Rica next year. So, but the key is residual income. So the principle behind it is our ability to feed our family cannot rely on our own ability to close transactions. We can do it for a period of time. You can do it for a little while, but eventually you're going to hit a wall that I hit. There's a principle called channel capacity. You're going to hit channel capacity. Where you're like, I just can't keep doing either the same activity that's driving me crazy, or as I've gained some success, now more responsibilities and things are heaped upon me, and I can't continue to operate the way I operate. When our tech company failed and I got back into real estate, I told Taylor, like, bro, I can't do it. I can't do the same old thing we've always done. We've got to recreate this. And so at some point, we must learn to make money while not actively closing a deal. Okay, so I've got a buddy. Speaking of doctors, he's a periodontist. Kills it. When he was in dental school, I was making 150 grand a year, you know, as a 22-year-old, and he was starving. Like we'd go out to lunch and his wife would be pissed if he got like the 2 cheeseburgers instead of just 1. And so he could be a dentist. And I was like, bro, just be a dentist. He's like, I think I'm gonna try to be a periodontist. I was like, that sounds so stupid. Why would you want to go to school for 4 more years, right? Luckily, he didn't listen to me. He became a periodontist and he kills it. I don't know what his hourly, I mean, he probably makes $5,000 an hour every day that he's in his office. Here's the problem. He makes money when he has his hands in somebody's mouth. So when we want to go do like a bro trip, and we're like, hey, let's go rent a yacht in St. Thomas and just float around. It'd be rad. We get fish and talk about life and love loss and all this fun stuff. He's like, do you realize that 7-day trip? Because we're like, it'd be $7 grand a piece. And he's like, it's $7 grand for you. For me, that trip's like $45,000. What? He's like, if I don't have my hands in someone's mouth, I'm not making money. He's like, how much money would you make down there? I was like, I don't know, 7 day. I'd probably make $15,000, you know? He's like, yeah, I would actually lose $40,000. Like, bro, that sucks. You know, like it's awesome that he can create, but he cannot take vacations. Because if his hands aren't in somebody's mouth, he's not making money. You have to get to the point, maybe all of you are already there, where it's not about you opening a lockbox and writing a contract. going back to step one, it starts there. You have to do it at the start, but you have to eventually get to where you're not tied, your income is not tied solely to you being the one writing the contract. So here's how the practice looks for me. I have 3 ways of making money when a real estate transaction closes. The first way is my core team of 10 agents. There's 2 costs associated. Number 1 is money. It costs a lot of money to run my team, a lot of money, like a scary amount. Because I pay for, Graham asked me this morning, what do you pay for your team? I'm like, everything, like everything. Like lock boxes, signs, business cards, trips to Tahiti, closing gifts, client appreciation parties, we rent out movie theaters, like everything, okay? But the bigger cost with my team is my time. I've got a 17-year-old son that I'm literally obsessed with. He did not, now he's got an opposite problem than I did. If you remember going back, I had to break the chains of poverty and addiction. He's got to now live up to a dad that is pretty aggressive, right? Like I push, I'm always pushing. So he's got a different challenge than I do, but I'm obsessed with him. He's leaving, he just got back from a humanitarian mission to Costa Rica. He was down there for 2 weeks. He's actually going to go on a Mormon mission this summer. He's gone. I've got 8 months left. So every second I spend with my agents on my team is a second I'm not spending with my 17-year-old son. It will never be the same. It'll never be the same. He'll never be a high school senior again. He's coming up to meet his little girlfriend he met in Costa Rica, and I'm playing in a golf tournament. I'm going to meet her on Saturday, and she's everything he'd ever hoped for and all this weird stuff. And she'll write your John. But I'm upset. The cost of my team is not necessarily the money, it's the time. So if you think I want to start a team, I'm all for it. You know, I'll be your biggest cheerleader in the whole world, as long as you understand what you're getting yourself into, right? A 17-year-old says, I just want to be a mom or a dad. Like, that's really cool, but it's not all cute Instagram pictures, right? You're getting crapped on all the time. So as long as you understand the cost, running a team costs a lot of time, and it costs a lot of money. Running my team Ridge is less time. So I have 10 core team agents, and then I have like 60 people in my team Ridge model that I give leads to. It's not as much of my time. It's probably more money, but it's not as much of my time. I have a pretty much open door policy, but my open door policy looks like this. Hey, Joe, can I ask you a question? Absolutely. How come the blah, 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 blah does the thing and the thing? That's a great question. Go talk to Taylor, because he's really a master at that, and I don't want to screw it up. The next, hey, Joe, how come the thing does the thing and the person does the thing? I love that question. Go ask Whitney, because she really has mastered that. And that's what I do all day. That's my open door policy with my team, Rich. I teach a lot of classes, and they can come ask me any question, but pretty soon after 2 or 3 questions, they're like, I'm not going to go ask that guy a freaking thing, because all he does is direct me somewhere else. And it's just, I purposely don't learn things. Like, I purposely don't know what signature thing we use, because if I know it, then I have to talk about it. So when somebody says, hey, how do I get the thing signed by the person in the thing? That's a great question. Ask Tanya. She's the one that knows everything about it. So I've just become like Matrix style, avoiding bullets. This is what I'm really excited about. So the reason why, so we get a lot of questions. Why we had 140 agents in our brokerage? Why on earth? We own the brokerage. So every dollar that came in was ours. So why on earth would we transition into a national brokerage that we don't own anymore? Revenue share. So I was tired of having 138 independent contractor, for lack of a better term, employees. Everything was me. They didn't give a crap about our growth. They didn't give a crap about our culture. All they cared about was themselves. And so I saw in Real, which exists at EXP, which exists at Fathom, there's a million ways to do it. I saw in Real an opportunity to take 130 agents that have independent contractor relationships with me, and I'm kind of their boss, and turn them into 100 and something partners where we're all growing together. And so now, the heaviest thing about running the brokerage was turnover. In Vegas, you would come on and work with us, and we'd get you producing. You'd go from 0 to 8 deals in 3 or 4 months. As soon as that happens, every single one of you that runs a brokerage is blowing up his phone. They're going like, I know Joe, I know what he does. I'll cut you a little bit better deal on the splits, and I'll give you a few more leads. And you're gonna go, there's nothing in it for me. All right, hey Joe, thanks so much. It's been an awesome 4 months. Those 8 deals changed my life. See ya. I'm like, how did this happen? You know, I felt betrayed. And so now the difference is when he comes on and he closes his first 8 transactions, he's capped and gotten stock. He's attracted a few other agents and he's received stock, and now he's getting rev share. And then you all call him and say, hey, I know you're over there with Joe. I know how his program works. I can cut you a little bit. And they'll go, you know what, let me stop you really quick. I'm never going anywhere. And so our attrition rate went from like 30% to like so far 0 in the last couple of months. Like nobody's going anywhere because it's their company. So if anyone ever hints at going somewhere, where are you going to, this is your company. You're going to leave your own company? You know, like, so I'm really excited about rev share because it costs me 0 time and it costs me 0 money. So if you want to talk about residual income, it's all about 0 time and 0 money. All right, principle number 3 is institutional investments. I love this quote from Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, I have lost a lot of money being type number 2. The stock market is a device of transferring money from the impatient to the patient. So I should say I've lost a lot of money being type number 1. Because here's what I've done. My idiot brother-in-law will call me and say, hey man, I've got the inside track on a biopharmaceutical stock that's gonna do what Merrick did. And we can get in right now for like 20 cents a share. Bro, it's gonna hit like 200. I start running the numbers. Now keep in mind, I know nothing about this company. I don't know what they're developing. I don't know what testing facilities. For all I know, it's some geek in a basement in New Jersey. I have no idea. But I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. Like, I'll put in 20 grand. And then my 20 grand turns into like 4. So my number 1 rule, before I even get into the actual practice of institutional investment, my number 1 rule is I don't listen to stupid people anymore. Like, no offense to my brother-in-law, but his advice sucked, right? And I'm looking to get my $16,000 back. So there's only 2 types of institutional investments I'm willing to make in. Number 1, I'm willing to invest in myself. So when we owned our brokerage, it was an independent brokerage. It was not a publicly traded company. One thing I love is over at Real, EXP, Fathom, wherever, you can invest in yourself. Like you have a direct ability to influence the value of your company, which is awesome. It's a publicly traded company. As I succeed, if I can go from 1,000 transactions to 1,500, that's a 50% jump in production from me. If Spring does it, if so-and-so does it, if the company does it, the company becomes more valuable. So as I exceed my own goals, as I create more opportunity and more success, then I'm comfortable in reinvesting in myself. The other thing I do is I invest in smart people. And my smart people list is pretty dang small. Like I'm a big Elon Musk fan. I'm on my 3rd Tesla. I'm obsessed. I'll invest in Elon Musk. If Elon Musk comes out and says, I am making projectors, and they'll actually talk to you and tell you to look great that day. I'm like, all right, well, here's some money. You know, I will invest in almost anything Elon Musk does because he's a really, really smart man. And so those are my 2 rules. Like when it comes to institutional investment, I don't take flyers on New Jersey-based pharmaceutical companies. I either invest in myself or I invest in really smart people. Last but not least, this is a new one for us. So as Spring said, we play in some of the same circles, and I've got a mentor that really, we talked about it today. Taylor was like, man, how long are you guys going to stay with your mentor? So part of the challenge you have is when you reach certain production levels in your life, it becomes hard to find relevant advice. And I hope that doesn't sound like a complete jerk. I don't mean it though. But like when I get in a room, I really want to find rooms where I am the dumbest, least productive person. Because I want to learn from people smarter and bigger than me. Not to say I can't learn from people on the come up, because you certainly can. But as a rule, it's good to take advice from people that have been where you want to go. So what's funny is Spring and I both signed up with the same mentor around the same time. And we laugh because we're both bigger now than he was when we signed up with him. We're like, we've been, like, in a sense, it's been a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like when we met with him, he was doing 600 units a year. I'm like, oh man, I can't even imagine doing 600 units a year. And we did 1,000 last year, and I'm really pissed off that we didn't do more. And so it's like, it's cool to see some of that happen. But one of the things he's introduced us to is real estate investing. And so what I want to just walk you through really quick is for us the hierarchy of a real estate transaction as far as an investor relationship goes. The least valuable thing we can do is not adequately assess our own mastery. So you remember how I followed my brother-in-law in the biopharmaceutical tech world and lost like $20,000 in a month? It's because I wasn't even novice level stock investor in biopharmaceutical companies. I was an idiot. Like I was less than novice. I was like not even a beginner. He said jump, and I said here's $20,000, right? Well, so Robert Allen says don't wait to buy real estate and wait. But now people refute this number, which is fine. But some studies have shown that it takes about 10,000 hours to become a master at something. If you do the math, in real estate, full-time real estate, it takes about 4 years to get your 10,000 hours. I have 20. So I don't know if I'm like a samurai. I don't know what I am now, but I've been doing this a really freaking long time. And about a year and a half ago, Taylor and I were like, why are we chasing stupid pharmaceutical companies? Like, we are massive. Between the two of us, we have like 100,000 hours of real estate practice. Why are we making other people rich investing in real estate? So we decide, so that's the principle, is as you build up your mastery, you need to keep your eye out. Theoretically speaking, what I found to be true is each real estate agent in the practice of traditional real estate has access to 2 to 4 investment opportunities a year. Not creating them out of thin air, not door knocking, not sending flyers as I'll buy your house cash, not having a old school Craig Proctor. For anybody that knows Craig Proctor, he was like our original coach. If I don't sell your house in 30 days, I'll buy it myself. None of those. Just like a lady calls you and says, I want to sell my home. And you show up, and if there isn't crack being smoked there presently, it hasn't been too long, and there's mold and there's water, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm sorry, man. There's really nothing I can do. This goes against my reputation. Like, I can't post this thing on Instagram, right? And so what we are trying to do with our agents, and it's starting to work, I'll tell you kind of some tales, is get them to realize that, man, this is going to sound kind of stupid, but like the more meth, the more money. Like if it's all cracked out, that's awesome. Like if there's big problems, we want it. Every single deal that doesn't make sense to you, if you come across a home and you're like, oh, this thing's a piece of crap. Yes, send it to us. If you come across a deal that just doesn't make sense, yes, send it to us. So I taught this a month and a half ago there was like 10 agents in the room at our office. I used my stupid more meth, more money line, and everybody laughed. And there was one guy sitting there, and about a week later, Taylor and I were going up to my favorite Mediterranean restaurant in Vegas, Paymone's. It's really good. It's almost as good as Marrakesh. It doesn't have the dancing girls, but the food's really good. And so he's like, hey, Joe, I think I have an investment opportunity for you. And I was like, let me hear it. Well, actually, you want to know what I really said? Chris, that's awesome, bro. To be honest, that's kind of Taylor's thing. Like, I just completely deflected. But I was like, tell me about it. So he's like, he got a lead from us, and it was a renter that wanted to buy a house. So this dude is consistently persistent. Like, this kid's a killer. He's already closed like 8 of our leads in 3 months or something. So he calls and finds out that this guy is renting a house. He's like, I'd really like to buy the house I live in, but it's kind of a piece of crap. And so he heard piece of crap and thought about us, which was awesome. And so he says to the guy, would you want to buy the house you're in? And the guy goes, yeah, but my landlord's kind of a D-head, and I don't know. He's like, I'll negotiate it for you, no problem. So he calls the landlord. The house comps out at $435. The landlord says, listen, that thing's a piece of crap. I don't even want to deal with it. I'll sell it to him for $315 or something. And he's like, well, can I get a commission? The guy's like, I'll pay you 1%. So he's like, oh, yay. And he put it in escrow. Anyways, that's a whole different story. So turns out the buyer can't buy. So now we've all been in deals like that. We're like, oh, shucks, let's find him a rental. And, hey, Mr. Landlord, can I list your house? Because he had sat through our conversation, he called and said, hey, I've got an opportunity. Would you guys be interested in taking a look at it? So he gave us the address. We realized there was about $125,000 spread there. So he was gonna make $3,100 representing both sides on a super risky deal because the tenant could end up suing him because he's dual agency and all that fun stuff. So what we did is we said, well, let's do this. I have zero interest in buying that house, but we know some investors that do. And so let's see what we could get the landlord to. I think we got the landlord to 305. We had to give the renter $5,000 to even participate. So maybe we got him to 300 and we had to give the renter $5,000 to just get out. So we called our investment buddies. We're like, hey, we got a house for you. Are you interested in 123 Main Street? And they're like, well, what's the number? 435. And they took it down. And so this agent went from making $3,000 on a dual agency nightmare of a transaction to making $8,000 on a bird dog fee. We actually overpaid it, but anyways, $8,000 on a bird dog fee on a house that was a throwaway. And so it's just become that master. And when you come across these weird cracked out situations, go, there's gotta be another way. And so I just want to show you our hierarchy. This is the practice for us. This is the hierarchy for us in the way we want to do things, okay? So option number one, we want to owner finance every single deal we come across. Now, I don't mean we don't buy them. What we want to do is we actually want to take down the home, like buy it ourselves, and then find somebody with terrible credit and a large down payment, which Vegas is full of them. Thankful for strip clubs and casinos. Lots of money, terrible personal habits. So we can find a lot of people with terrible credit with a lot of money. So we can buy a home for fun. Let's say it's worth $100,000. We can find those to purchase for $50,000 or $60,000 all day. We buy them for $50,000 or $60,000. We could just flip them, which is an option. But what we would rather do is find somebody that dreams of home ownership, that is comfortable with a $1,500 rental payment, which would end up being about $120,000 mortgage payment at like 9.9% interest. So we would say, listen, we'll sell you this home that retails at like 100, but if we're going to take the risk of not selling it like straight up, we'll sell it to you for 125. But you got to put $15,000 down, and then we'll carry the paper. We'll be the bank. Like, congratulations, you're a homeowner. So keep in mind, we bought it for 50. We sold it for 125. They gave us $15,000. So now we're into it for 35. We have a note on a property paying us 10% interest at $105,000 total amount owed. So we're into it for 35. We're collecting about $1,200 a month. And in 2.5 years, we'll have all of our money back. We have 18 years of income coming from that. So that's an additional income stream. Wholesaling is kind of option number two. If we're not going to owner finance it, we'll just wholesale it and not even touch it. Like, not even literally clean out the toilet. Like, we will take it to an investor and go, it's your problem. We've got it. We'll sell it to you for 80. How much we're into it is irrelevant. So what we try to do is build in their margin so we can say, if it would retail at 100 and he would pay 70, we could get it for 50, then we got a 20% margin. We're willing to flip them. To be honest, in today's market, we've been kind of stockpiling cash. I'm telling you more than I probably should. We started with about $500,000. So far, I think we bought like 27 properties, and our portfolio is worth like 4. So we've like 8x'd our money in the last 9 months. And so some of it's because we flipped. So like right now, if we can get a really good, like we bought a house in like hell. I don't even know what you would call the city, like just the worst city ever. And I think we paid 60 and we're selling it for like 118 and we did nothing. So we're doing some of that just to refill the coffers so that we could go do more owner finance deals. We really want to run a ratio of about 1-to-1, and then we want to get to where it's 2-to-1. We're like, we owner finance one, we buy one and flip one, we get more cash. So when we want to get to like 2 owner finance deals and 1 flips, then eventually we want to get to where we never really flip them. We just keep owner financing them, because I would love to be retired in 10 years. What does retirement look like? It looks like 500 owner finance properties that my business partner and I, we live the law of concentrations 50-50. So maybe we're bringing in you know, $400,000 a month. And I think at that point, we could probably both comfortably retire. We list and sell some homes. Like if we can't make the numbers work, we're willing to list it. We have a residential arm. And then last but not least, the last thing we want to do is rent to death. I only put that up there because we actually have 2 of them right now where somebody says, listen, I'm getting foreclosed on. I really don't want to move. So will you buy my house? It's not that there's no equity. It's that he doesn't want to sell it and move. So let's say he owes 60 and it's worth 140 and he's going to lose it in 2 weeks. We will buy it and we will let him rent it for us until he dies. So we have a couple of rent to death deals. We're not rooting for they pay us. We're not losing money on it, but it's just something that it's not our number one investment tool. But to be honest, we've been able to help a couple of people like stay in their home and terminal illness in 2 or 3 years. They don't have to worry about anything. So we've been able to help them. Right. All right. Last but not least, my preferred method of contact has become Instagram. I'm probably more likely to respond to an Instagram message than I am to respond to a text message. I don't know why. I'm just kind of a nerd. So if you want to connect with me, that is my Instagram handle. Ask me anything. What do you want to know?
So going back to one of the things you mentioned earlier, how agents have this like subconscious issue with your individual worth when you're making substantial money, or what feels like substantial money. Right. What advice do you have to come to terms with that? Because definitely have experienced that a little bit with making some money that I think so.
So I read a book. I'm a big golfer. I recently put a golf simulator in my house. My son, my 9-year-old son plays golf for like 4 hours a day. It's probably a golf, but it's called The Mind of a Golfer. A great book, Bob Rotella wrote. Universal principle. So here's what I found to be true. I'm currently a 9 handicap, which means on most golf courses, I will shoot in between 78 and 82. Like, it doesn't matter if I quadruple bogey the first hole or birdie the first 5 holes, I'm going to shoot 78 to 82 because my subconscious is comfortable there. So, like, I will only allow myself. So if you want to see something awesome, look at some of my scorecards where, like, the other day, I was 2 over through 14. I'm like, dude, I could get 2 birdies and shoot par. And I went 8 over on the last 4 holes because my subconscious was like, bro, let's chill. Like, we're not comfortable with being this good, right? So some of it is just you've got to play in bigger ponds. You've got to be around people making money who will tell you like, hey, you're being an idiot. Like, go make your money. You've got to also calculate all the. So one of the masterminds I participated in is called Curator. It's a tech company that powers all of our websites and stuff. And he went on his Facebook page and said, what's the #1 problem with being a real estate agent that nobody talks about? And part of it was the isolation we put ourselves in so that we're never around people achieving greater than us because we're so concerned that they're going to take, like, we literally are peasant children sitting at the bottom of the table with our tiny little bit of crumbs. Everybody's feasting above us. We're so afraid someone's going to take our crumbs that we won't stand up and participate in the feast. So part of it is you got to be around smarter, bigger people. You got to go like, dude, spring, our team's going to do 450 deals this year. And like, but then you also have to equate all the time you spent doing this. Like, this is a money-making activity. The challenge with it is these 2 are going to buy a house from you. She's not a realtor, and he's going to look at your commission and go like, what's your name? Nick. Nick made $15,000, sweetheart. He spent like 2 hours with us. You can do that. That's $7,500 an hour. And then she's going to get in, and I'm just using you guys as an example. She's going to get into real estate. She's not going to like calling leads or converting leads or whatever. But part of it is you're going to feel guilty because all of a sudden your client, like my first couple of years in real estate, I was 21, 22 years old. And I was making $250,000. And everyone I sold a home to, guess what? Became a realtor. And I was like, I'm making this look too freaking easy. None of them are still selling real estate. But I had to go through a lot of self-belief. how do I feel when I make $25,000 an hour selling one of my buddies a home? I feel great. I feel great because part of it is I also recognize the cost of the canceled escrows, of the calls that take me out of a church meeting or out of a movie with my family. I recognize that I haven't been on a vacation in 20 years. I've gone out of the city. I've gone to Tahiti, but I'm still working, you know, so it's like you can't just calculate your time based on the time worked on that deal, or else you're right, we're all grossly overpaid. We have to realize that, like, why does, if you want to be real, we had my wife early on in our marriage, one of the principles she probably still hates is I was like, let me just lay down a couple of rules for you that probably aren't going to be very sexy. I'm not going to mow the lawn. I'm not going to do pool service. And I'm probably not even going to change the air filters in my home. And I know you want to be married to a lumberjack that does all that, but unfortunately that's not me. I'm going to go make money. And then I'm going to come home and I'm going to watch Dawson's Creek because Dawson's Creek was bigger. And I'm going to watch Dawson's Creek and it's not going to be sexy, but I'm going to make enough money to pay the landscape. And so you have to count all the costs that go into, you know, the reason why, so we had guys come and clean the air ducts in our home. And they were like, these are disgusting. And I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I probably haven't changed the air filter for like 9 months, you know. They were at our house for 3 hours. It was $2,000. How do you equate that? I'm like, they ran a vacuum cleaner up in the attic and charged me $2,000 for it. So part of it is looking at other industries and going, my buddy that's a periodontist and like scrapes people's gums, we'll charge him $9,000. And so part of it is we need to realize that once we build ourselves as a business, we deserve the type of income other people deserve because we built the type of business other people built. If you want to be very insecure about the money you make, run around and go, because they'll never appreciate it. I hate to tell you this, but every single client you've ever thought you were being Chip and Joanna Gaines to, and you're like, I got you this basket. No, here's some great paint colors. I'll meet your furniture guy there. Oh, you need someone to meet your pest control guy? I'll go meet your pest control. I'll go to this. At the end, they appreciate less. They appreciate you less and appreciate and criticize the money you make more because they're like, this guy has no freaking life. You know, you want clients to appreciate you, they got to see how busy you are. But it all starts with you believing in yourself. And part of it is just getting a bigger room, like getting a bigger fish tank.
Good question. So a couple things. I'm just trying to wrap my head around so you sell and finance it to them.
Right.
So you own the note
Right.
and they own the property.
Right.
Title is in, they own it.
Right.
Okay. So do you have a prepayment penalty or can they refi out of that?
No prepayment penalty and they can refi whenever they want.
Okay.
So 2 things. Number 1, that's a great question. Ask Taylor. Number 2, they'll never do it. Like, so Brett is our mentor. Brett's Springs mentor. So we got one. So I read a Facebook ad. So I found a home where the husband inherited it from the wife who died. And he was like, I don't care. Just give me $60,000. It comped out at like $240,000. We're like, okay, great. So we gave him $62,000. We then owner financed it for like $275,000. Someone put $25,000 down, and then like 3 months in, the guy sent us we got a payoff notice from the title company. We're like, no, like, I mean, you know, it's still cool. We're gonna make $150,000 or whatever. But we're like, we don't want to make $150,000. We want to make $400,000. We want this guy to keep this house for 20 years. And we called Brett. And we're like, bro, what do we do? And he's like, it will never happen. He didn't know my client or the client. He didn't know the house. He didn't know anything. He's like, that would be the fastest owner finance payoff I've ever seen in my whole life. And guess what? 9 months later, the guy's still paying like $1,600. So it's just, there is no prepayment penalty. There's no anything. The only way it works is if you have your margins built in. So worst case scenario, they walk into the Terrible Herbs Casino and pull the thing and get the money and pay us off. We still make a ton of money, but it just doesn't happen.
So just to follow up, so you own that note, so that payment is going to stay the same for 20 years.
Right.
Okay. So what makes you want to do that over keeping the property in your name, having rents appreciate over 20 years, and then you refining it, pulling out and buying more?
The number one answer I'd probably give you is noise. When this guy takes a huge crap and clogs his toilet, he's got to fix it. When the AC goes out, he's got to fix it. When the roof leaks, he's got it. Like the number one thing is noise. I don't know how I'm feeling about playing the appreciation game. I know if I own or finance over 20 years, a $120,000 house, we're gonna get 250 back. I don't know if I'm confident that if I finance it and then get this guy to pay my payment for me, I don't know if I'm comfortable that in 20 years, if that note's paid off, that it's still, that's gonna be around 250. Maybe it will, but I'm just not playing that game. The reality is we're going to recapture a significant amount of the homes we own or finance, because traditionally, I hope every single client hits the lottery and pays off their note or learns self-discipline and becomes, the reality is a lot of them are gonna default.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna have to repossess it and then we're gonna do it again with somebody else. So in a sense, we'll get to benefit it, but the number one thing is I don't wanna be a landlord.
Yeah.
Like our agreement with the 2 rent-to-death people is do not ever call. Like if something goes wrong, it's yours. We'll rent it to you forever, but you've gotta handle every single problem that exists. Because I have zero desire to be a landlord. Does that make sense?
How difficult is that repossession process to learn? Or
Not, you know what's
Yeah.
a lot harder? Evictions during COVID. Like, those are impossible. So repossession, totally possible. They bought it during COVID, and if they can't pay their payment, they can't claim any type of COVID type of, that's right. What's that? Forbearance or like, I want to say insecurity, like inconvenience or whatever. They can't claim COVID made them lose the house. So, I mean, it takes about 90 days from full default notice to actually foreclose and get them kicked out. But we haven't had to do it yet.
It depends on the state too, so if you wanna buy in the states that are non-judicial,
Right.
so that's 90-day foreclosure.
Vegas is one, or Nevada's one, Arizona's.
So is Utah.
Utah's one. So, but luckily we haven't had to do it. Now, again, we're pretty young in this. I don't want to make it sound like we've been at this for 20 years. I think we purchased 26 properties. We have 11 in escrow right now. So now our new problem, so here's the thing. I'm leaning on being a problem maker. And so the way I do it is I say, I'm a rainmaker. My job is to make my lead distribution person's life miserable. She's a lead distributor. Her job is to make agents miserable because they're so busy. Agent's job is to make our transaction coordinators so miserable because they're so busy. And ultimately, our transaction coordinator's job is to make our accountant's life miserable because we're making so much money that they're so busy, right? So part of it is like we create problems. So theoretically, a year and a half ago, our problem was how do we crack real estate investing to get enough opportunities? How do we get enough opportunities? How do we get enough advances? So at first it was we found 1, then we found 2, then we found 3, then we hired a whole team, 4, 5, 6. Now we have 11 in escrow. We have a new problem, which is capital. I make decent money, but at some point you run out. And so now we're fighting a whole new fight, which is we need like $5 million. And so it's cool to create new problems. So about earning your value is create big problems. Like I love it when my accountant calls me and goes like, bro, we gotta talk. And it's not because the IRS is banging on the door, but it's because he's trying to figure out how to save me money on taxes. I love creating problems for my accountant, the good kind of problems. So anyways, so evictions are a good problem. It means you've done something right, gotten a deal with owner finance, and then they've done something wrong. And now you get to get it back, get a new down payment.
what does your Facebook ads look like for the investing? Like how are you targeting? What does the ad itself look like?
So we've kind of pivoted away from them because so the hierarchy of applicability on social media, number 1, and probably 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 are attractive people. The Kardashians are billionaires for a reason, right? So like people love clicking on ads or articles about attractive people. Thankfully, maybe because of Chip and Joanna and the Property Brothers, attractive homes are like number 2. And then I would argue that food is probably number 3. Like my kids have an app called Tasty or something like that. I don't even remember. And they literally watch people make food. Like you can go in the kitchen and watch that, but they watch it all. So the reason I bring that up is the challenge with advertising on social media to generate opportunities to purchase homes is no matter what you say in the copy. So picture this. Just sold in Draper, Utah, We'll buy any house cash, save real estate commissions, we'll pay you way above market value. You could say literally anything. And does anyone want to guess what the first, second, third, and 12th comment will be on that post? No, there'll be some of those. How much? Like, is this still available? Like, do you do down payment assistance? And I'm like, bro, read the freaking article, like, read the ad, but they'll click on it because they see a house, but then their immediate, like, vomit style reaction is, how much? Like, can I go see it? Like, can you go see what? It says just sold, you know? So that's the challenge. So we've had some success. That one house, we made 150,000, would pay for like 5 generations of Facebook ads if we wanted to. But we've actually moved on to, we literally have 3 who's sitting in an office all day, calling all day and creating opportunities. And like, we get these pest control kids that have been out in the heat selling pest control, and we're like, hey, come in, and they put them on, we pay them $1,500 or $2,000 a month. And they start calling, and then we tell them if you don't have a deal in 60 days, you're fired. And they always have a deal. And then they have 2, and then they have 3. And so it's like, so we've created a new problem. So we can do the social media, but I get out because I'm like, you can hear me in my office, like, it's not freaking for sale. Like, and I'm typing out a response. But anyways, it did work twice. We bought 2 homes on about $2,000 spend and generated about, not counting owner financed earnings, just straight earnings. I think we made about $220,000 on 2,000 spend. Why not do it more? I don't know. So it's just, our new problem is how we keep our phone guys busy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
What are the other ways I do marketing?
So we are literally, if you've ever, if you saw a pie chart of our marketing, the dollars we spend are 94% Facebook, 4% Instagram, and 2% Realtor.com. Like, we have like 1 area left on Realtor.com. Our agents love it. I'll tell you, just full disclosure, it doesn't make me money. Realtor.com doesn't make me money because our agreement with our agents is 50-50. We can convert for every 100 Realtor.com leads we generate, which cost $25,000. We can probably convert 3 or 4 deals, which would bring in about $50,000. Because we split it with our buyer's agents, we end up making $25,000. So it's like pedal, get nowhere. So we do some Realtor.com because like our top producers, we kind of feed them to them as like a have fun with it because they like it, but it doesn't make us money. Our return on investment with Facebook is about 40x. So this year we will generate about $3 million in gross commissions from Facebook. We will recapture about 1.5 million of it in commissions to us, and our cost will end up being about $80,000. So maybe we'll run about 20x. We'll get about 20x return. So every dollar we run in a Facebook ad, we get about 20x. But it's a whole math equation. Like, it's bigger than that because if you go back to the opportunity and blah, 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 we can't, if you said, Joe, what's your number 1 problem that you face? I'm going to tell you, I can't get anybody, hardly anybody, that is willing to play this game. No one will give me one more. Nobody will run this equation with me. So Taylor's been in these interviews. For the last 3 weeks, we've onboarded 6 or 7 agents onto our leads program. And I don't remember what he called me earlier, but I'm just very like, because I'll tell people, I'm like, it's cool if you say you want to convert leads. That's awesome. So this is my problem. This is I'll end here and you can say, wow, that was a positive thing. But so someone will come into my office and say, hey, I really want to be a part of what you're doing. I'm like, oh, cool, that's awesome. We'd love to have you. How long have you been licensed? 3 years. Oh, awesome. What has your production been like? I've done about 7 deals. I'm like, okay, 7 deals in 3 years. We can improve upon that for sure. Why have you only done 7 deals? Well, the last place I was at, the lead side. Oh, is that the only place you've ever been? No, I was at another brokerage. Oh, really? What was the problem? The lead side. Oh, okay. So everywhere, guess what's gonna happen in my room? The leads are gonna suck. Because the problem is not the problem is our industry is filled with people who are either consistent or persistent. If you want to meet an absolute monster, we're putting on an event at the end of September. Angie runs our team. She is a maniac, like to the point to where she's like borderline ruining her family. We have to be like, yeah, you gotta back off a little bit. She is a 10 when it comes to consistency. Every day. She's a 10 when it comes to persistence. Every day. And we give her enough opportunity, she'll do 60 lead closings this year. She'll close 60 of our leads. She's just a monster. Everything less than Angie is a struggle for us. So then I'll go, oh, the lead suck, okay, cool. So then I'll usually try to turn the conversation into, do you find yourself somebody who's more comfortable being consistent or being persistent? They'll say, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, is it easier for you to do the same thing every day or to work in spurts really hard? Some people would go, oh, I just love putting myself on autopilot, work every day. Or, oh, I just love to work in spurts. Like, if I can work a day, off a couple of days, work a day, off a couple of days. And then I'll say, I hate to tell you, but guess what? Our leads suck. Because the way you work them, they're going to be terrible. Because if you're only going to work in spurts, it won't work. If you're consistent, but you don't want to, because a lot of real estate agents say, I don't want to be pushing. And so we had a girl quit our team. Were you here? I don't know if you were here for this meeting. She quit like 2 weeks ago. I'm talking about persistency and consistency. She goes, Joe, I just don't like feeling pushy. And I was like, oh. Like everyone in the room was like, oh crap. Like, because they knew what I was going to say. And I just said, I hate to tell you this, sweetheart, but this is not for you. Working here is not for you. There's lots of good opportunities. Go work for KB and like to be an order team. Like, hello, would you like the maple cabinets or the oak cabinets? Because we have cabinets. You know, like, go be that. We're monsters. Like, we are killer. We're sharks. And we make a lot of money. And we are building a lot of wealth. And so, ultimately, that's my problem, is I can't find anybody willing to play the math game. Because I will say, listen, how many deals do you want to close a year? Oh, if I could do 10, that'd be awesome. Okay, you're not my guy. I can't, because my opportunity is like, it's like a fire hose. You can't water a garden with a fire hose, right? So for me, it's like, if you want to do 20, we can do that. And so when you look at my company, of the 60 agents that take our leads, 20 of them will close 250, and the other 40 will close like 10. And I just can't find more than 20. So if you ever wonder what keeps me up at night, it's not, oh man, I hope this escrow doesn't fall out because I don't even know about this. What keeps me up at night is, how do I get people to freaking work to break the chains of their life like I've done so that they can build something better for themselves? Because people become so freaking complacent that their why is this big and they make enough money to get by and live paycheck to paycheck that they never actually can break out and accomplish something great. So.
Have you found any sort of commonality between people that are successful with the CMP, like the agents that are doing, like that's something that's standing out?
Yeah.
You're like, you should aspire to that because, I mean, these are general terms. Like,
Yep.
how do you be consistent 100% every day? What does that mean to you?
So I love that question. I got asked that question on Monday. And she asked it a little bit different. And I had a whiteboard. And she said, Joe, why do some agents succeed and not others? And I walked up to the board and I wrote why and I put up a question mark and I circled it. And I said to her, do you see the answer to your question in your question? And a light bulb went off. The number one reason I think people struggle with persistence or consistency is their why. I'm sorry, it's kind of generic, but it's like, I saw this thing on Instagram, and it's kind of crude, so forgive my language, but it was like, if you give a man good sex, enough money for his next meal, and a warm place to sleep, he'll probably never accomplish anything great. And what it was really saying was, there's no why there. Like, why do men go to the gym and accomplish great things is because they want to impress girls. Like, why do moms and dads work so freaking hard? Because they want to build something better for their kids than they had for themselves. And so my the biggest challenge I see in real estate is people, I can't even fault them because they don't get into real estate to hustle. You know what I mean? Like, they don't get into real estate to do that. They get into real estate because they sat there with him, they saw the closing, sweetheart, you could do this. Okay, if I made $7,500 a couple of times, we could go to Tahiti every year. And then all of a sudden they end up in a room with a bunch of sharks and they're so intimidated. And they're like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want my husband's friends to buy a house from me. And then I go, guess what? It's never going to happen because I am going to programmatically steal your husband's friends from you. And that's like hard stuff. But if their why is not big enough to fight, they're just going to get stolen. And so like if you say to yourself, man, I'm really comfortable as a barista at Starbucks and I live in a cheap apartment and my girlfriend seems cool with it. I mean, it'd be cool to close some deals, but done. Like you're already done. But if you go, my brother has AIDS, my mom is a compulsive gambler, my dad was in debt his entire life, and I actually kind of hate my family, I'm going to build something bigger. And so my why is huge. And you know what's kind of cool to me, and hopefully is sexy to my wife? I'm more motivated now than I've ever been in my whole life. I'm less worried about money, and I wake up more motivated than I've ever been before. It's like every day I show up to the office, and the other day I told Taylor, I'm kind of pissed today because I just don't feel like we're growing right now, today, this moment. And it's like I've become really obsessed with not money, but I've become obsessed with growth. Like, how are we growing? How are we meeting more awesome people? How are we having more awesome masterminds? Like, how are we, Spring and I freaking ping each other 20 times a day with, hey, have you tried this? Hey, have you tried that? You know, and it's like, I'm really happy that I'm more motivated now than when I made my first $500,000. Like, I'm way more motivated now than I ever was then. And it must be that my why just keeps growing. So now I've got my son, and he's like, Dad, I want to come work for you. And my daughter's like, Dad, we want to work for you. And my little boy's like, Dad, I'm going to take over your company. And so I'm like, I better build a big enough house for all of us. And so like every day I wake up and I'm like, how are we going to grow our house today so that when Philly, my 9-year-old, gets to be 20 or 21, that I have something for him to do. So Porter, my 17-year-old, when he gets home for being a door knocker, he's going to be up here in Utah chasing down deals. Go up to Utah, go work for Graham, go chase some deals. Get out of my face, go learn how to do something, you know. But I guess that's a really long answer to the reason why people struggle with those things is the why. I'll tell you, the people that got into real estate to make $15,000 twice a year can be very consistent. They can be very consistent. But if they don't need it, like if it's not a matter of making your next mortgage payment or achieving your Dave Ramsey goal of paying off all your debt or whatever it is, you won't be persistent. So that what that looks like is every day you're like, man, she's the sweetest girl, or he's the nicest guy. He's here every freaking day. And then team leaders bang their head against the wall. Why can't we get this guy or this girl to achieve her goals? And it's generally because her why is not big enough, or his why is not big enough. And when it literally boils down to this. Hey, this is Joe. You asked about 123 Main Street, and I just want to check and see if you got the information you're looking for. Oh, I was just curious. That's the fork in the road that determines 40 deals a year and 2 deals a year. Is what do you do right there? And so in our interviews, and I'll end with this. In our interviews, we will literally ask people, pretend you called me because we assigned you a lead, and my name is Graham, and I was inquiring about a house. You called me, and I said, oh, I was just curious. What would you say? In general, that answer determines their entire career. And it kind of sucks. Now, things can happen. Whys can change. People get sick. People lose their jobs. People get divorced. Like, if you want to see somebody motivated, is like, in our experience, newly single moms whose husbands are freaking a-holes and they end up having to build something, get out of their way. Like, they kill it because they have that, I trusted this guy, I was raising the kids, he was doing this, and then on the side he was doing that, and now I'm having to build it by myself. And I'm like, and I don't have to say anything. Because when somebody says, oh, I'm just curious, I go, well, let me ask you this, what does just curious mean? Because you clicked on an ad, so obviously your curiosity got you to take action. Like, well, we're probably 1 to 3 months away. Oh, 1 to 3 months, like, I'm gonna send you some home right? Because it's like, that's how they feed their kids. Their why is massive. And like, to me, that it answers every single question. So if they're not succeeding, it's generally because of why. It's just too small. Thanks, guys.
All right, for the next 45 minutes, I'm Taylor Steve from Vegas. I'm Joe's growth partner. We just want to talk to you guys about an event that's coming up September 27th and 28th in Las Vegas. Anybody been to Las Vegas? Anybody heard of Las Vegas? It's like Windover, but like with consistency and persistence.
Yeah, it's like a persistent.
Yeah. We're gonna have a great event. We're gonna bring in some top motivated people because let's be honest, we need motivation. Zig Ziglar said, "Motivation is like bathing. You know, we need to do it daily." And I'm looking at myself and I look at guys in this room like, man, I gotta get to the gym. This dude lives in the gym. What's your name? No, you. Purple shirt with like 4 biceps. What is biceps? Only means 2.
They have them at Walmart.
If I was consistent, persistent in the gym, I would look like you, like you. So we want to bring out that business side of you. We've created an event that's going to help you be both educated and excited. I don't know about you, but some people would rather have ignorance on fire rather than intelligence on ice. The worst thing for you guys to do is you could learn a bunch and then not do anything. So we want to motivate you and educate you, and it's going to be a great event. I know that Spring's going to be speaking and a couple other sharp people that I don't even know because I'm so new in the business. But as a growth partner, my job is to promote, to cheerlead, and get people to events. So you guys are going to love it. Vegas, it's awesome. We picked out a great event. There's going to be a mix and mingle with booze and appetizers. I don't know if anybody's into that. I know I'm here in Utah. A lot of people are into it. So for anybody that goes, I'm not sure how many of you are involved specifically with Spring.
So we haven't promoted it yet. We're gonna start promoting it to like this week. But yes.
Secretly, before a certain spot in September, it's going to be a buy one get one. So if you register, we're going to give you guys a free ticket to bring somebody. We've listed hotels on there, so you guys can stay at the Red Rock or you can stay at Marriott, whatever. We're going to do a mix and mingle the night before. It's going to be fantastic. We've brought aboard some partners on this to help pay for stuff. You know, title companies, mortgage people that owe us favors, basically, because we're paying them. So this is going to be a top shelf event. It's going to be fun. And then the next day you're going to get mastermind. You're going to get mental vitamins, which it sounds like we all need, right? Personal growth, galvanized with, you know, the excitement of doing what we're doing. And so you guys are not going to want to miss it. I guarantee it. Lunch will be served. There's this new place called Cafe Rio. You've been to Cafe Rio?
Yes.
Oh man. So you've lived life. But you guys are gonna love it. Yeah. So I'm Taylor Stink, I'm the growth partner in Vegas. You guys need to come down to visit us in Vegas, and I'm gonna turn the rest of the time over to Spring.
Yeah, so thank you guys for coming. So he's hilarious. Just to hit on it, I'll send out you guys invites if you want to come. It's on the 28th,
27th,
27th, and 28th. Well, 27th is an invite only.
Oh.
You need to know that. 27th is invite only. 28th is open. It's what the tickets are for. We're gonna have speakers, a CEO, curator. We're gonna have Rockbox. CC's gonna be there, and then a bunch of top panel agents. So invites will go out. We'd love to see you guys there.
Okay.